Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the YFO podcast, The Young Football Opinion. Every Tuesday, me and a group of friends will be discussing all things football from a young football fan's viewpoint. From the World Cup in Russia to transfer news and eventually league football come August, we'll be talking about it all. Joining me tonight are Jack Stroudley.
Hello.
And Dom Riley.
Hello.
My name's George and I'll be hosting the podcast. The big news from the last week was probably the announcements of most countries' squads for the World Cup, mainly England's. What did we think of the squad?
I think the squad is disappointing because you look at the team, look at the squad in general, you look at some of the players, especially I'm looking in midfield, it's a bit underwhelming. And I think the expectation on England, especially with this whole new young players coming through like Harry Kane, Dele Alli, things like that, where this is the first big tournament they're going to be at. It's not amazing. It's really not. It's not the golden generation, obviously, but it's underwhelming. I think that's probably the word to describe it.
For me personally, I actually don't think it's that bad. I think you've got to look at it as in realistically, this is the best that we do have. There's a few players that I would change, obviously, but I think for the vast majority, there's not really much more that you can include into that side that would benefit us.
I'd probably agree with Jack. I think although people are thinking quite negatively about this England squad, I think that's mainly over a couple of selections they don't agree with. I think overall, mainly starting 11, we've got players such as Kane and Sterling and Rashford who can really make a difference. And if we run through the squad quickly, we got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jack Butland, Gary Cahill, Dele Alli, Fabian Delph, Eric Dyer, Jordan Henderson, Phil Jones, Harry Kane, Jesse Lingard, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Harry Maguire, Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope, Marcus Rashford, Danny Rose, Raheem Sterling, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Jamie Vardy, Kyle Walker, Danny Welbeck and Ashley Young. And from my perspective, I agree. I don't think it's a squad that maybe excites the fans as much as we want to. It's not the big selections that you'd hope to have, like we had Gerrard and Lampard, etc. But I think there's reasons to be positive. I think the players in that squad suit the way Gareth Southgate has tried to get England playing football, especially in the recent friendlies with the three at the back formations and the pace in attack. But I think overall there is room for optimism. But what I'd like to ask you both is, starting with Jack, what 3 changes, if you were Gareth Southgate, would you make to that squad?
So firstly, I'd include Jack Wilshere into the side. I think that he's just too good to not have. Personally, I would have had him over Ruben Loftus-Cheek, but obviously Gareth Southgate's got his own opinion. Next, I would have had Adam Lallana on the side. I think that's another attacking option that is once again too good to miss out. I think he's had an all right season for Liverpool, and I think he's warranted a place in the World Cup squad. And finally, I'm going to go with one that's going to probably shake up your 2 opinions. You're going to both disagree, I can already tell. But you look at our front 4, they're all very similar players. They don't really offer much coming off of the bench. So for that reason, I would go with Charlie Austin in the World Cup squad. I think since he's come back from injury, obviously under Mark Hughes, I think he's done very well. And I would personally, I know he's not really in the start game, but you got to think, imagine we are playing Panama 0-0, 70th minute. The defenders they've held out valiantly, and on comes Charlie Austin, and balls start getting pumped into the box. This is just something new that they're not really going to be able to, they might have a more struggle dealing with.
I just like to, before George says anything, the fact that we have come to a point where we used to have teams including Terry, Ferdinand, Cole, Gerrard, Lampard and Rooney, and we're potentially, in Jack's eyes, resulting to bring on Charlie Austin drawing 0-0 with Panama. It's like the worst decline in a nation's history in the space of about 8 years. That's just depressing.
But if you're going to say that you want that option off the bench to pump the ball into the box, why aren't you suggesting someone like Peter Crouch?
Andy Carroll, mate.
Crouch.
I think we've got to be honest. Peter Crouch is quite old now. Would he really? I don't think his old legs would be able to handle.
Danny Welbeck season.
I understand that, but personally, I would have Charlie Austin. I just think at the moment he's in good form, and I think he'd bring a different option off the bench. But obviously, Gareth Southgate sees something in Welbeck that I don't. We'll see. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, well, I can understand Wilshere and Lallana, but we'll have to agree to disagree on Charlie Austin. Personally, 3 changes I'd make. I'd agree with Wilshere, although I'd bring him in for Delph rather than Loftus-Cheek. I think Loftus-Cheek does offer more than Delph, and I think he's actually quite a good option, which he proved in that friendly against Brazil, I think it was. He was very solid, and I don't know how Wilshere's not in the squad. I view him as probably our most technically gifted player. I don't have a clue why.
Well, I'm just going to wait till keep going.
You're allowed to disagree. Then next choice, James Tarkowski.
Yeah.
He's literally in the top 6 voted players for the Premier League Player of the Year, and he's not gone to the World Cup over Gary Cahill. It's a disgrace. I just don't get it. I don't get it. How can the best centre-back in the league all season, who's English, not be taken to the World Cup?
That's called big club bias, George.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you got a point.
And the third one, I don't know. I'm torn between a few, but I just look at the midfield, and like Jack mentioned, I don't see the midfield options. And I don't think anyone in the England squad offers what John Joe Shelby does.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And I don't see any of the midfielders we've got pinging a 50-yard ball like Gerrard used to do, like Shelby can do now. And you may disagree with that, but that's just my personal opinion. He's got that bit of grit about him that none of the others midfielders do. And I wouldn't take him over another midfielder because I don't think we've got enough options as it is. As harsh as it is, I'd probably take him over Alexander-Arnold because with Walker and Trippier, I get he gets the experience of the World Cup, but what does he offer realistically?
Well, I mean, if you've got John Joe Shelby pigging balls over the top, it's probably worth sticking Charlie Austin in your side. To be honest,
I'm not sure I'd start Shelby, but he certainly offers a lot more than your Fabian Delph. I'd argue.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like, if you've watched him this season, he's been constantly solid in a very good Newcastle side under Rafa Benitez. I don't know if that's because of the manager or the style of play, but he's been superb this season, and I don't know why he couldn't be given the chance.
I agree with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair point.
Dom,
I think
benches.
Yeah, I think I wasn't thinking Shelby, but now you said it. Like, especially if you think about, and I'm going to use this example because it's the best team I've seen play the kind of 3 centre-backs, wing-back system that we're going to play is Wolves. And the way they play, especially when we played them, never springing balls out to the wing-backs. I don't see anyone in our setup doing that apart from what Shelby would do. I don't see any... I agree with you. I don't think any of our midfielders especially have the passing range to do that. So I think Shelby's a very strong shout. Especially, I probably agree with you, someone like Delph, because realistically, he's played this year at left back when he has played, and we're not going to play him there. So he's a bit used to midfield. Wilshere obviously is an obvious one as well. I think I like Loftus-Cheek a lot, but I think if you're talking about the midfield, who you swap Wilshere out for, you have to go like for like. Otherwise, you're going to be overloaded in one. You're going to have too many attacking ones, too many defensive midfielders. So I'd probably swap for Loftus-Cheek. Tarkowski is an obvious one, I think, but I'm not going to talk about him because I think George has done him justice. Danny Welbeck, why that man is in this squad, I have no idea, and I haven't really pinpointed a replacement for him because I think it depends what option what route you go down. Because I think that Andy Carroll, Peter Crouch type strike. I'm not saying them necessarily, but that kind of target man is we're missing a target man really. Now obviously there's the biased option of Sessegnon, but I'm gonna leave that because I think I get caught. I'd be abused. I just think I don't see what Danny Welbeck offers. That I would probably rather take Charlie Austin than Danny Welbeck. I think Austin offers more.
It's a movement. Get Charlie on the plane.
Oh, no.
But I don't see what.
Condone the Charlie Austin. No.
I don't see what. A, I don't see what he really offers, and B, I don't see what he's done to deserve to be there. Really, and I'm definitely not alone in that as well. I don't think that's a controversial opinion. I think that's quite a popular one. I don't necessarily know who I'd replace him with, but I don't think he deserves to be there.
Okay,
I just want to bring something up quickly. Just a question for you all, or for the two of you. Where do you see England actually, like, where do you see us going this World Cup? How far do you reckon we're going to make it? Start with you, George.
I've said for a long time I think we'll make the quarterfinals at a minimum. I'm not overconfident. I don't think we'll get further than that because other countries have more quality and depth than we do. Like if you're basing it off starting 11s, I think we've got a good enough 11. Maybe as far as the final if we're being optimistic.
No way.
Whoa.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not run before we come.
Listen, because in the system that Southgate played, even if it was just friendlies against Brazil and France, we didn't lose. And if we can turn up and it's a big ask for England. And obviously, I'm not saying we're going to make the final. Like I said, I think we'll make the quarterfinals. I think the big problem is that the countries like Spain, who can afford to leave players like Fabregas and Morata out their squad, and the countries like France, who can leave Martial and Lacazette out their squad, they've got that depth, they've got those options which take them further in the main competitions. And in a couple of years, maybe, when we've got the next generation of big players coming through, maybe we'll have that depth. But we don't right now, and that's why I think we'll make the quarterfinals. But I really do trust in the system that Southgate plays. And I think, although there's not much reason to be excited about the squad, it does suit the way he plays. So you've got to understand his picks. So yeah, I'll say quarterfinal. Dom?
I think, as much of a pessimist I am when it comes to England, we have to get out of that group, and if we don't, it's worse than Iceland if we don't get out of that group.
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Panama and Tunisia should not bring a threat to us at.
No, I have no faith in England whatsoever. But if we don't beat both Tunisia and Panama, I don't care where we come. Like, that's embarrassing. I haven't looked at the kind of tournament tree. I don't know who we would get in the last 16.
If we win the group, we get the runners up of H, and if we come second, we play the winners of that group, and that's the Poland, Colombia, Japan, Senegal group.
Oh Christ! Okay, right.
But I still think we could beat any of them on our day.
Yeah, I think on their day, Colombia beat us.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know about the other three, but I think Colombia do beat us. Maybe Poland as well.
Personally, I think that it's going to be the round of 16 for us. I think we're going to finish second in our group.
I think that might be helpful.
I can't see us beating Belgium, and I just think that Colombia, I think that they will just beat us. I think they've got so much pace and quality going forward. I just don't know how our lack of experience, if you will, at the back is going to be able to cope with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it'll be round of 16. I think purely down to the quality of opponent we're going to face. Not necessarily. I don't think that necessarily does us justice, but looking at those teams, I wouldn't back us against Poland or Colombia.
Yeah. Well, as Jack just mentioned, we do have Belgium in our group, and today, as of recording, they announced their 28-man provisional squad list. Few surprises in there. Kevin Morales not in the squad. Divock Origi, who scored in the 2014 World Cup for them, not in the squad. But the big talking point, Radja Nainggolan not included. What do we think about that, Jack?
I think that's the right call, to be honest with you. I don't think he's had a fantastic season. I mean, one thing to take note of, obviously, it is a provisional squad, so I don't think you'll see the likes of Nasser Chadli going to the World Cup and Adnan Januzaj, those kind of players. But I do think that Nainggolan, I don't see how he'd fit into the side. I mean, I don't think he's had a great year. And the way you've got to look at it is they have got so many better players as in form. I think obviously Tielemans, De Bruyne, Moussa Dembele, Dendoncker are all better options, I think. I don't know why Witzel's in the squad over Nainggolan, though. That's probably the one disagreement I would have. I don't think the Chinese league offers the same quality as the Serie A. But like I say, obviously they've got a fantastic squad, and I can see them going quite far in the competition.
Funny that you mentioned Januzaj, because it seems he's going to be part of the 23-man squad, because Martinez in his press conference today came out and said, we know the potential quality of Adnan Januzaj. He's a player that can help us a lot in the way we want to play. Whereas about Nainggolan, the Champions League semi-finalists, he said that we know that Nainggolan has a very important role in his club, but we cannot give him that role in our squad. He's a top player, and the reason is tactical. In the last 2 years, the team has worked in a specific manner. Other players had those roles.
So it's a tactical move to not take arguably one of their best midfielders.
Another point.
And regardless of this squad alone, it's not just this squad. In their whole qualifying campaign, he played a total of 6 minutes. So there's clearly something there. He said that on his Instagram earlier when he retired from international football at his young age, that he's the number one fan now, and sometimes his best isn't enough. So there's clearly between him and the Belgian national team.
Another point that I failed to mention is the fact that Christian Kabasele has somehow landed his way into that 28-man provisional squad, which
but who do you put in over that?
I just don't think you put Kabasele in. I just don't think he's had a very. I would rather put Nainggolan in that provisional squad than Kabasele, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But obviously, like I said earlier with whole Southgate, Martinez clearly has a style of play he wants to play, and if Nainggolan doesn't fit the system, he doesn't fit the system.
And we're saying this, Nainggolan's a top quality player, and he's not playing in our group. Like, I know it's probably a surprise to people, but I don't think we should really be complaining about it.
I don't think we are complaining about it. I think it's just a bit, from a neutral perspective, not seeing one of the best, not best players in the world, but, one of a very top quality player at the World Cup isn't, I'd rather see the best players.
Yeah, that's understandable. In other news this week, Saturday, the FA Cup final, Chelsea came out victorious against Man United. Wasn't the best game though, Dom?
No, I didn't even. I watched the first half. I don't think I even watched the second half. Didn't focus on it anyway. It was not.
What I would say about the second half is that Man United show what they can do with the quality they've got, and they were a lot better going forward. There was a lot more urgency, but the fact that it was so defensive for so much of the game, and Chelsea came out 1-0 winners, and it was just a very boring game where the fact that so often now in big games it's the defenders that are getting best recognition for their performances when it should be the attackers. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like, I know Philippe Lahm came out and said they're overlooked for Ballon d'Ors, etc. But the fact that it's a defensive display in a cup final that's highlighted most, it's not what the fans want to see, and it's just, it may be a style of football that wins, but what for? Like, what?
Well, I'd argue, I agree with you. I'd much rather watch an 10-game football, but you have to think about it from a manager's perspective. He's not paid money to have his team play well. He's paid money to have his team win games, and he's doing what he can to win games in the most effective way. It's not pretty. I think we can all agree on that. It's not necessarily very entertaining. But if it wins him cups and it wins him big games, then he's not. You're not complaining, are you?
I think that it's a send off for Antonio Conte. To be honest with you,
yeah.
I think let's be honest, I don't think he's going to be there next year. I think after those, I think it was the performances against Watford and Bournemouth, the home and the away game. It was clear to see from then onwards the players just weren't playing for him, and I just don't think that. Yeah, he's just interested anymore, and I think that he'll go. I don't know where his next move will be. I don't really know who will take him, but I think it's just a good way to end his 2-year run at Chelsea.
Who would you look at a replacement, just out of interest?
I don't know. I mean, I would have said Allegri, but he's isn't he like signing a contract to Juventus?
Yeah, I agree with you. It suits the way Chelsea play football right now. He's just the typical Italian defensive-minded manager, isn't he? So
yeah, it would be very much a like for like appointment. I mean, you could argue maybe Ancelotti, maybe.
Yeah, so I was going to mention Ancelotti because I think there was talk of that when in that really bad period they were having, that Conte's going to be sat there and then they're going to get Ancelotti in. He's taken back, but I don't know how likely that is.
Yeah.
Going back to the actual final, Eden Hazard scored the winner, a 22nd minute penalty. I can't imagine anyone who's got any defence for Phil Jones. It definitely was a penalty, I think.
Yeah.
Should it have been a red card? And I personally think there's no doubt it should have been a red card. He was last man.
Yeah,
red card, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
And if we look at the stats from that game, Man United 66% of the possession, Manchester United 18 shots to Chelsea 6. Right, Man United,
how many on target?
5 on target to Chelsea's 3. But the fact that United went forward so much and scored 0, I know I was slating it, but it's a testament to how well Chelsea defended, and probably shows that it was right that Rudiger got the man of the match. I thought he was superb on the day.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I just want to quickly, again, another question for you two. Who do you think has actually had the better season? Because obviously you've got Man United that finished second but then won a trophy, but Chelsea finished 5th and won a trophy. Who do you think had the actual better season, Dom?
Manchester United, because I think Champions League football is imperative when you're that stature of club for both clubs. I think I know, like, obviously they've won a cup, but I think as a Chelsea fan, I would say that this season has been a failure.
Cool. What about you, George?
I disagree that it's a failure because they have won silverware, but I understand where you're coming from. I'd agree. I think Man United have had the better season. I think although there is a massive points gap, I think they improved on their points total from last season considerably. They've got comfortably Champions League football. They were the only team that at any point in the league season looked like they'd be able to challenge Man City, although obviously towards the end they didn't. They did get to a cup final. They will be playing Champions League football next season. I can't see Mourinho going. I can see Conte going. And I don't know. I think Man United have taken a step forward, and after winning the leagues last season, Chelsea have taken a big step backwards, not playing Champions League football next season. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I'd say Manchester United better season than Chelsea.
Yeah, okay,
cool. I've actually got some breaking news for the podcast. If you two of you want to just put a drum roll in, Arsenal are going to sign or appoint Unai Emery, the old PSG manager, at some point this week. Sky have just reported.
Yeah.
So
that was our next section. There's been a lot of managerial movement this week, and we were planning that in future podcasts we'd have a little section dedicated to transfer news, but since it's only the start of the window and there's been so much movement in the managerial sector of the game, then we should dedicate a section to that this week. So starting out, big news, Wenger's replacement, Unai Emery. What do we think about that, Dom?
Before we go into that, shout out Andy Year, Dom. He's getting no recognition for his transfer. Well done, mate.
So, Reading this week signed Andy Year, Dom.
There you go. That's all. A bit of recognition. There you go.
Right, transfer news done. On to the managerial news. Dom. Arsenal appointing Unai Emery.
Unai Emery. Now, okay. Before I get this wrong, former PSG, correct?
Yeah.
So he has. He's won league. He won Liga, I believe, all his years. I think 2 or 3 years he's been there. He's won them all 3, all three. I
think he won 2 because Monaco won it 1 year, didn't they?
Oh, that's a good point. So he didn't even win the league every year.
We should have really done our research on this.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why Statman over there is here.
Right. So Unai Emery, he's been in charge of PSG since the 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, he signed a 2-year deal at the start of the 16-17 season.
Okay.
To over from Laurent Blanc at the time.
Yeah.
That season, they were knocked out in the Champions League, obviously in that historic game to Barcelona, where Barcelona won 6-1 in the second leg.
Yep.
He won a league title, and I don't know. For him, I don't think it's a good appointment personally. I think when you're managing a team with that much talent, like I know Neymar was only there this season, but I'd be expecting them to dominate like Juventus do in Italy, to be honest, because I think they've got a much better team than Monaco or Nice. And last season, they were very much challenged. Like they didn't win the league, and he's never in his 2 years he hasn't got anywhere in the Champions League.
Yeah, I think
It's where Arsenal need to be back at with some of the players they've got, like Aubameyang and Lacazette, and I can't see him making the progress that Arsenal fans will want, personally.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think obviously like Arsenal aren't in the Champions League, but I think in the circumstances that he's in, obviously the first year he did not win the league title is like that's not good at all. But in that second season, especially they got Neymar in, they had probably the best front three in Europe, you could argue. Neymar, Mbappe, Cavani. And you got, what, was it round of 16? Knocked out by Real Madrid? So, yeah. I know it's Real Madrid, obviously, but still, I think a team of that talent, you have to get far in the elite competition to prove your worth. And I think, as obviously PSG fans like that, they won the league, so they can't be too disheartened. But on the whole, you'd probably say that he's underachieved in his 2 years.
Yeah. I personally am going to disagree, and I think that this is quite a good appointment for Arsenal. I think the way you look at it is it's going to be a transitional period over the next kind of year or two, where obviously a lot of players will probably leave this season. A lot of players will try and get players in, but obviously he won't be able to lure as many in because obviously they're not in the Champions League. So he's going to have to kind of make do with what he's got. And I think during the transitional period, you need a manager who is proven elsewhere. And I think that if they would have got someone like Mikel Arteta or Patrick Vieira, who haven't really performed like as a manager on the big scale, are they going to provide the same kind of experience and tactics?
I completely disagree with that because when Alex Ferguson left for David Moyes had been fully experienced for a long, long time with Everton, and he didn't get the results they wanted.
It was a bit of a step up though from Everton to Man United. You've got to look PSG to Arsenal. I mean they're both big clubs aspiring for the same sort of stuff. So that's my opinion anyway.
I think Arsenal have taken so many steps back in the last couple of years that maybe someone like a Mikel Arteta would have just been. I don't know. It's obviously it's just a risk, and maybe they should be taking a risk.
Well, I disagree with that a little bit. I think in terms of league position, yeah, they have taken a step back. But if you look at the players they have now, that squad should be definitely, I think, top four next year. You look at, especially if they can, replace Koscielny after he's aging a little bit. You got that front kind of 4-5. You got Ozil, Mkhitaryan, Lacazette, Aubameyang. You got Ramsey there. I know Wilshire's leaving, I think, but you have a lot of attacking talent there. Like he should, if Unai Emery comes or whoever comes in, but Unai Emery as a manager there should be trying to nail down top four in his first season with the squad he's got. Never mind who he signs, in my opinion.
Okay. In other news, managerial wise, Gary Rowett, he's been given permission to talk to Stoke, the current Derby manager. What do we think about that, Jack?
I'm quite surprised, to be honest with you. I thought that Rowett would have stayed another year at Derby. I think, to be honest with you, Derby are going to go for a really, really bad period now. I think you've got to look at it. If Rowett's going to go to Stoke, Vidra's going to leave. They've got an ageing squad. The fans are quite expectant of them to, finish in those top halves of the table, pushing for promotion. And I just think whoever really would go into Derby now, they've got a real job on their hands. And I think that Stoke have got a good manager for the Championship, but his commitment to whatever club he's at is very, very questionable, and it's something to kind of be wary of in the future.
Yeah, fair enough. And Darren Moore, he was the interim manager at West Brom at the end of last season.
Go on, Daz.
He only lost one game. He was very impressive. Now been appointed permanent manager. Dom, you think that's a good move from them?
Oh yeah, I think that's the move they had to make. Whether beside of his obviously lack of experience, you look at what he did last year. You can't not give him the job based off that. He pretty much couldn't have done anything more more to prove that he was the right man for the job. And I think Especially, I think he's been there a long time. I think he's from the area. He sounds like he's very loyal to the club. And in this kind of period where I expect a lot of players will leave West Brom, you want someone to kind of hold the fort down, and I think he will do that. I don't think they'll do a Sunderland and go down again. I wouldn't expect them to go up again next year, but I reckon they'll probably be mid-table, kind of upper mid-table, depending on obviously who they get in, signings and that. But no, I think it's the right appointment to make, and it's not really. There weren't really any alternatives. Going back to the Router thing, I just wanted to say something on that. From Gary Router's perspective, I don't understand why he's even going to Stoke. To be honest, I don't think there's much point in him going from a top 6 Championship team to a side that's been relegated, where a lot of players will leave in the summer. And it's not like he's going to the Premier League. He's staying in the same league. So I don't think, from Gary Router's perspective, I don't think that's a good move for him.
One I do want to mention is Carlos Carvajal leaving Swansea. George, I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
I personally don't think it's the right move from Swansea. I think he's a manager who's already got experience taking a team into the top 6 of the Championship with Sheffield Wednesday. He knows how to get a team playing good football. The thing with Swansea is, a few years ago, they won the League Cup final and they were in the top 10 in the Premier League, and they had a really good brand of football that they were known for. They were known as a team that, the new Arsenal, if anything. They played really nice football, but they've lost that image. They've lost the players that can be really creative in that side. And I don't know what happened, to be honest. I think they're taking so many steps back, and I don't think 5 years on from winning a domestic trophy, they should be in the position they're in. So, I don't know. I think Carvajal is the right man for the job, personally. But also, Moyes and Dice, respectively, they left West Ham and Everton this week. I don't think many fans of either club would have many complaints about that. Do you think it's probably sensible moves from the club, starting with about that, Dom?
I'm hoping for a swap deal. I'm hoping David Moyes go back to Everton and Alex go back to West Ham, and we're all happy.
To be honest, I disagree, because that's what I hate about the Premier League and moving into the Championship sometimes. It's managers like Allardyce and Moyes that they're just safe. They're safe options for clubs to a point, and I don't like that. I don't know. I
get you.
For me personally, I think the whole David Moyes leaving West Ham is an understandable move, and I can understand that wholeheartedly. And I think the appointment of Pellegrini, which is inevitable, is quite good for the club. I don't know the ins and outs behind the whole Sam Allardyce issue he had with the board and why the fans hate him. However, from a neutral looking inside, they were 18th when they got rid of Ronald Koeman. He then came in, steadied the ship, and they finished in 8th. And I think the way you look at that, that is a phenomenal turnaround. And I think that Allardyce has really gone under the radar. And I don't know. Again, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know what happened with the board and with the fans. But just looking at kind of performances and where they ended up in the table, I think he's done a stellar job, and I don't see the hate he deserves.
I agree. I think he has done a good job, and I don't think Everton fans should be disrespectful in the way that they're happy he's gone. But at the same time, I understand why they're not disappointed, because yes, he got them into a solid upper mid-table position, but at a club like Everton, where they've got such a prestige history and they've always been at that top level, they want to be competing to be one of the big teams in Europe. They spent a lot of money in the summer because of the sale of Romelu Lukaku, and they're just not playing good football. And I think that's what they want to see when they've spent so much money on big name signings. Personally,
I understand the whole thing of wanting to play good football and needing to compete, because they are one of the bigger clubs in the Premier League. However, Allardyce couldn't really have done much more than he had. He didn't buy any of those players. They were all Ronald Koeman's signings. And he's the side that they look destined to finish in the lower half of the table. He got them playing his style of football. I know it's not the most pretty thing, and he got them finishing into 8th position. And I personally, I just think that he was a good enough manager to kind of progress them maybe to a Europa League place, which I think realistically at this stage, looking at the quality of, your Cities, your Uniteds, your Liverpools, your Tottenhams and your Chelseas, you're not going to get any further than that really at the moment.
I'm more in George's court. I think I get what you mean. I think you're right in that he couldn't really have done much more. But I also understand why Everton fans are like, well, yeah, you managed to get us 18th to 8th, and you deserve credit for that. And he probably did deserve a summer, but at the same time, it's like he's taken them to where they should be. He's not overachieved in that sense. So I wouldn't say he's done like a really good job. I think he's done what he came in to do, and yeah, as I said, I probably would have given him a summer. But yeah, the amount of money they spent and things, I wouldn't say it's an amazing job. I think it's the job he came to do and nothing more than that.
And finally, with manager news, the ex-Dortmund manager, Thomas Tuchel, he was appointed the PSG manager this week. I'm going to start here. I personally think another backwards move from a big club. I think it's another safe that they've gone with. But if you look at the job Tuchel did at Dortmund, it wasn't anything impressive. If anything, again, he took them a step back. And from a team that haven't renewed Unai Emery's contract because they want to be doing well in Europe, have they really made progress by appointing Tuchel? I don't know what you two think about that.
I agree with you. I think it's a bit like Football Manager in the sense that all the managers of big clubs go around, and that you kind of seeing that now where they're all managing loads of big teams. But I agree with you. I wouldn't say Thomas Tuchel or however you say it necessarily did a good job at Dortmund. I think Jurgen Klopp proved that you can overcome Bayern in that sense. I know it was different back then, but like Dortmund have the capacity to do that. But I think the fact that Aubameyang was sold in January to Arsenal, who, let's face it, in general terms, are probably
Tuchel wasn't manager for this season.
Oh shit! Well, either way, Dortmund
he managed for the 15-16 and 16-17 season.
Either way, Dortmund are going backwards, I'd say, and I think that starts from Tuchel.
Yeah. And a 4th place finish this season proves that.
Who was their manager this season?
What, for Borussia Dortmund?
Yeah.
Oh, I forget his name. Hang on, it'll come.
It's Peter. It's like Peter Stoger.
Stoger, yeah.
Never heard of him.
My opinion on
the manager that used to play, and he didn't really have much experience, but I knew he managed Cologne for a few years, and then he got appointed Dortmund manager, but they finished 4th this season. So,
anyway, my opinion on the new appointment at PSG, I agree with the whole thing of it is a safe option for the club. He's got previous experience managing a bigger side. But I think realistically, you've got to look who else do they appoint who's on the same that you could argue has that experience and would go to PSG.
Ancelotti.
I don't know whether he'd go to PSG personally, but obviously everyone's got their own opinion.
I'm surprised he didn't go for Wenger, if I'm honest. I don't know if Wenger's like retired.
Nah.
Wenger said he's got multiple options and that he wants to keep him.
I can see him going back to France. I just don't think I'll be PSG.
Can I before we move on, can I ask for a word on Steve McLaren at QPR?
Yeah.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. I know. I just it made me laugh.
I was reading something the other day about Steve McLaren, and he said that between his two spell at Derbies, he said he came back to Derby and he said, I struggled to do my job, and this is a quote, I struggled to do my job at Derby in the second reign because we missed our focal point in Chris Martin. And that's a quote.
Oh, you
he blamed Derby's poor 16-17 season on them not having Chris Martin.
Well, that's why he's going for him now, isn't he?
I suppose, yeah.
500k bid, was it? Although they rejected 6 million in the summer. Ridiculous. Anyway, on Saturday, yesterday, the three of us went to Wembley for non-league finals day, and we watched the FA Vars final between Stockton and Thatcham Town, in which Thatcham Town were victorious. a 1-0 win, a first half Shane Cooper Clark penalty, and then the FA Trophy final, which turned out to be the cracker of the game. Bromley did lead 1-0 going into the 96th minute, but then after an almighty goal scramble, the Brackley Town captain, Gareth Dean, popped up to break Bromley hearts and send it to extra time. And then eventually it went to penalties. And although Bromley did look like they'd be winning the FA Trophy at 4-2 up, they possessed to miss 2 penalties. Their captain, who's from Bromley, missing the second of those, and Brackley Town went on to win 5-4 on penalties and lift the FA Trophy. It was a great day. And I think more people need to recognise how good non-league is, because from watching a lot of the Premier League this season, it's so defensive-minded. Whereas we went to 2 games yesterday where they were thoroughly enjoyable. There was some really interesting attacking football, I thought.
I completely agree. I think that a lot of people do underestimate the importance of non-league. The way you look at it is we have a system in England, like the hierarchical system. Is it hierarchy that you call it? The hierarchy system in English divisions. And I don't think you have a system that's as extensive as England is anywhere in the world, really. I think you'd struggle to find a country where you'd have over 30,000 people packing out their national stadium to watch 2 teams from the 10th division compete for an amateur trophy. And I just think that I've been going to these non-league finals personally with my other people for about 3 or 4 years now, and the attendance has just been growing and growing and growing. And it is evident to see that more people are starting to pay attention to non-league, and I completely back that. And I just think that a lot more people should, appreciate that the style of football. I know the style of football and the football isn't as great as the Premier League, but they're very open games, and no team is happy to settle for a point. They'll always push on to try and actually score a goal.
It's the heart and soul, isn't it? It's the heart and soul. It's the grassroots football.
You've got players like Jamie Vardy, who he's going to the World Cup this summer. He's won a Premier League title, and he was found in the non-league. And I think, when you're supporting a Premier League or even a Championship club, it's so fun to just go and watch in the international breaks or when you've not a game on. I don't see why people don't give it a go, because it's such a good watch. Like, I've been to 5 or 6 non-league games now, not Wembley, but just at the smaller grounds. It's such a nice atmosphere, because whereas at stadiums you've got tens of thousands of people packing in, and they might all not be big supporters. If you're going to a non-league game, these are all people that passionately care about their local club, and the atmosphere and the style of play, it's just so enjoyable.
Yeah, that's the true thing with non-league. Whenever I go to a non-league game and I look at it, I just think that these are the people. They're not sitting at home watching Gillette Soccer Saturday and Match of the Day. They don't really care what the kit looks like or the sponsors and all that stuff. They're here just for the love of football and for the love of their local club, and they're here to support that.
Especially yesterday, you mentioned 10th Division, Stockton and Thatcham Town. Can you imagine what it was like for them to have a day out at Wembley?
Massive.
I know we all support Fulham, and we haven't been for a while, but for supporters of teams of the Premier League clubs where you might be going to Wembley every couple of seasons, for a team like Stockton or Thatcham Town to have a day out at Wembley,
it's once in a lifetime.
It was their first appearance at Wembley. It's just incredible. It means so much to the fans.
Yeah, completely agree.
Just a word on, you mentioned Jamie Vardy non-league. Shout out Shane Byrne, the next Jamie Vardy, mate. Watch him. He's a baller. He was so good yesterday. Love that bloke. Shane Byrne. Remember the name.
Shane Byrne. He had a good game, to be fair. He was a centre-half. He was a number 4, wasn't he?
Number 4, centre mid, yeah.
Yeah. It was a very good day.
He then missed a penalty in the shootout, but we don't talk about that.
Well, that wraps up the first edition of our Young Football Opinion podcast. Thanks for joining me, Jack.
No worries.
John.
You're very welcome.
If you'd like to keep in touch with us, then follow our Twitter at the YFO and follow our YouTube channel, which will be linked on that Twitter page. We'll also be doing some blogs, and every Tuesday we'll be uploading a podcast about all things football, and I hope you'll continue to join us. But for now, that's it. Goodbye.
Cheerio.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the YFO podcast, the Young Footballer Point.